I would love to invite Crystal up to the stage. She will be talking a little bit about Swiftonomics, which is a very fun topic, so I'll let you take it away.
Hey guys, I am so glad to have you here today, and I really hope to earn the value of your time. I know we are like one session away from cocktails because I did not have a cocktail earlier, but my name is Crystal Weiss. I am the Director of Marketing at Question Pro. I'm also the Chief Swiftonomics Officer. Yes, I have used that in my signature, and I have been quoted in like the New York Times with that title. So we're gonna say it's like pretty stuck. What I'm going to talk about today is how to use trendy data points to make market research more accessible, how you can partner with journalists to create better human-centric stories, and how you can really augment human-centric stories with market research to create, for better or for worse, better journalism and more market research in the cultural zeitgeist, as I like to say. But why are we talking about Taylor Swift? Because 1.4% of the US population went to a Taylor Swift concert this year. The picture that I showed at the beginning, that was me at Taylor's Seattle Night 1, where our surprise songs were This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things and No Body, No Crime with Haim. I know that at least, where is she, Danielle? She went twice. My chiropractor spent $7,000 on four seats and went to Atlanta. Dan went and saw the movie with his kids, but you wait till the end of this year, I bet you they'll get him to one. She's doing 168 shows over 2 years. And she was, if you were under a rock, she found you this year. Augusta Saverai from Bloomberg was the first to coin and accredited with the term Swiftonomics in November of 2022. If you think that it's like a phase, I mean, it's like gonna be a 5-year phase, so get used to it. But she was really talking about market data. So you could find things like Ticketmaster debacle, you could find on StubHub how much tickets were getting resold for, but you couldn't find how much people were spending on friendship bracelets, how much they were spending on outfits, how much they spent to travel to a bachelorette party in Seattle, how much I had to spend on the Airbnb, the 6 outfits that I bought, the friendship bracelets I made, the food I spent, the merchandise I spent. That data was not available. And because I work at a market research firm, why wouldn't you survey people and ask them? I mean, if you haven't surveyed somebody, if they think a hot dog is a taco, are you not having fun at your job? So what we did was we surveyed people. We did 4 surveys across 3 months, and we only came up with a $48 delta difference on this number of $1,300 per person. That means that people were really putting out for this experience. And if you go back to one of my beginning slides, 4 million people were spending $1,300 per show in just the US market. This, to us and all of us who are market researchers, this is really interesting. But like, where's Bob? If you're Bob and you have 3 kids who aren't into Taylor Swift, then like, does this matter to you? Do you really understand the impact? And I was like, oh man, this is so fun, but like, how do we make this interesting to Augusta at Bloomberg or Gina at the New York Times? How do we get them hooked on this data? How do we give it to them? How do we package it for them? How do we make it interesting? And me and my PR guy, I'm kind of bummed he's not here because he was such a big part of this. He really helped us and me kind of generate the storytelling and how do we make market research approachable. We know that we estimated they spent $5 billion. The US Travel Association that we ran these numbers by said $10 billion. And I was like, I'm gonna stick to my math, and I'm not an economist. So we stuck with $5 billion. We're like, okay, but again, how is that interesting to the everyday man, the everyday person who's like, I don't spend money on Taylor Swift. We did the research and we found that she was bigger than the GDP of 50 countries. There's your hook. That's how you get a journalist to answer your email that you just kind of like dropped in their inbox randomly. We also, because we're nerds, I mean you're cool nerds, but nerds, we did an NPS score. And so if you're doing an NPS on Taylor Swift, what is she related to? She's related to Costco, Southwest, Ritz-Carlton, and Apple. And that's how you get your hook. So when you're cold emailing people saying like, hey, I have some fun market research for you, and they're like, I don't want your research, you're like, but here's the hook. And we caught lightning in a bottle. We earned $800 million in earned advertising revenue that I paid the cost of a sample for 4 times. We were on the Today Show 6 times. We were on NBC Nightly News. We were in Fortune, Forbes, New York Times, Washington Post, Sky News Australia. Like, it was everywhere. And it was the wildest summer of my career. It was career high. And I had my mom calling me saying, like, I saw you on Lester Holt on the NBC Nightly News. And I was like, did you take a picture? I didn't know we were there. And so what was really interesting was all of a sudden, this content's everywhere, right? We're putting out these reports. We have news, journalists calling me. Me and Dan were like, do you want to take Fox News? Do you want to take Washington Post? Divvying it up. But what we found, and what I became really passionate about as we moved forward, was they didn't know that this research was available to them. You're on a phone with a journalist, and she's like, well, if you researched about this, could you do a survey about this? And I was like, hell yeah, I can do a survey about that. I can do a survey about anything. Shout out to Tim, my sample guy, who finds all the people for us to survey, my market research team who proofs them to make sure they're legit. But that was where I really realized that journalists do not have access to the kind of consumer-centric data that we all take for granted. They have polling departments, but you know what a guy in a polling department doesn't want to do? Like, let's run some Taylor Swift surveys. It's not his vibe. They are so busy running what they're good at, which is political polling, and we want them to do that. But they are not supplying their journalists and their departments with that real consumer-centric data. And here's a great example. Gina Smelyak from the New York Times, she's a lead writer for the Federal Reserve. She also wrote a wonderful book about the history of the Fed. Just published an article a couple weeks ago that is like how consumers are expected to be disappointed. We think they might be disappointed. They didn't have any data backing up that, yeah, they're going to be disappointed because the Federal Reserve mortgage rates aren't going to go down. What I did, literally, as soon as I saw her story go live, because I have an alert on her, I fielded a survey to 1,000 home buyers and sellers who indicated they would be buying or selling a home in 2024. And we found that, yes, they will be disappointed because they indicate they won't sell or buy their home until rates are below 5%. And I sent that to her. We did it in 48 hours. We sent it off to her, and it will be made into her next story, because now you don't have, oh, they might be disappointed. You have, yes, they will be disappointed, and here's the data to prove it. So what makes market researchers useful for a journalist? I use this term a lot, and my team probably laughs. I'm like, well, that's really cool, but are they useful? Are they helpful? Are you a team player? And these are kind of the things that we learned talking to them, is you have to ideate with them. They don't know what they don't know. You're not a journalist, you probably can't write a story as well as they can, but they don't know what they don't know to ask. And I think in marketing, I've been doing it a while in various industries. Market research is fairly new to me, so thanks for having me today. But there's a moment where you're on the phone and you're like, hey, what are you writing about? How can I help you? And the moment that a journalist gets it and that light bulb goes off, and you're like, well, yeah, I could send a survey about that. I can do 300 people from my phone in 45 minutes. Like, that's easy. Give me something harder. And they go, okay, well, could you find this segment of people? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, if you found those people, could you ask them this question? And you're like, yeah. And then they just start rolling. But they need to know, and they need someone to ideate with. It's not hard. What we did wasn't magic. Literally any of you could have done it. We just happened to. So am I asking you to give your market research away? Yes-ish. I sped through it pretty fast because I'm kind of a fast talker. My PR guy said I needed to slow down, so I apologize. But we earned thousands of backlinks. Things that weren't even trackable. Like, Dan found himself quoted in Time magazine because we bought Time magazine because his kids wanted the Taylor Swift version. We had 88 billion views, $800 million in earned media, and my parents calling me saying they saw me saw the Question Pro logo on Lester Holt. That is a game changer. Market researchers could support journalists for just 1% of your time, one article a month, 3 articles a quarter. Just do something that helps journalists, because it is hard to be a journalist in America today, and you could make it so much easier. You could be a bright spot. You could be a co-worker with them, making their jobs a little bit easier. By embracing changes and sentiments of consumer trends, market research could be embedded in our cultural zeitgeist of America today. Thank you. That's all I got.
We know we have a question, so I want you to stay right here.
That was not interesting.
Okay, I thought journalists could only use probability sample. Most of the time. What kinds of questions do you get about sample reliability?
Oh, that's a great question. The Washington Post probably put us through our ringer for that one. While I'd love to answer that, Dan and Tim can probably answer it better. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So good to have you here. And thank you again, by the way, for the party last night and your partnership on that. It was a good time if you were there. I'm just saying. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Tim and Dan can answer your questions.